Hello and welcome to the Comicspiracy, episode 304 for the week of April 4th, 2017. My name is Ryan Higgins. Who's here this week?
Brock Sager.
And
Cricket.
And that's it. Cricket, that's our new podcast host, Cricket. You want to introduce yourself? Not the one from Always Sunny, if you watch that.
I can't make it.
Toby should be on his way, actually. Charlie's gone, Bryce is gone. Toby's supposed to be on his way, so hopefully Jones is here soon.
Otherwise, it's a two-man podcast, which you dread.
Yeah, this is your first podcast, which it might be, we may be picking up some new listeners. We'll talk about that in a bit. Not a typical episode. Usually we have like 4 or 5 people on here, but some people are busy this week.
It's a legacy episode.
Sure. There you go. If you go back to our early 40 episodes or so, it's just me and Brock. But then the cast expands, just like any classic comic book, just more people show up. There may be a few more eyes in this episode. We'll see what happens when it goes up. We'll talk about that. A lot of Marvel stuff to talk about. Not so great Marvel stuff, but we'll talk about that a little bit later in the episode. But before we get too far, I have a couple things to announce here. This past Saturday, April 1st, was the store's...
This is not a joke.
Yeah, it's not a joke. Okay. I don't know the exact date. Unfortunately, that was sort of lost to the original owners, who have all passed away at this point. But I was told April, so I just used April 1st, is the store's 24th anniversary. Mm-hmm. So Comics Conspiracy has been here in San Diego for 24 years as of this past April.
You've worked here...
As of April 3rd, yesterday, my birthday...
Happy birthday, Mr. Higgins.
Thank you very much. I have been here for 20 years, which is unfucking believable. Yep. I started working here April... Well... Again, I was hired on my birthday. I don't think my birthday was my first day working here. But
no, you were hanging out for a good year.
Many years, 4 years. I was an employee. I was a customer here shortly after it opened. That's when I moved out to California, and I was hired on the day of my 18th birthday to be an employee here at the store. And so, that was April 1997. Mm-hmm. October 2006, I bought the store officially, and still here to this day. So, this past October was my 10th anniversary.
Of 2007, I walked into the store and said, "You still work here?"
Yeah, so
I believe your words to me were, "Bitch, I own the place."
Yeah, so you've been here 10 years. Toby and Charlie have been here 11, 12 years.
Yeah, I think Charlie's been here 11...
They both started before I bought the store.
Yeah.
And Marshall's been 6, I think. So
they're pretty close.
Yeah, most of our employees have been here for a long time. So
wow, I've been working in comics for 10 years now.
I've been working in 20. Well, I worked at a comic store when I was a kid. I worked for a store when I grew up in Massachusetts. Just helping out during the summer and stuff. Shortly before I moved out here. So that was when I was like 13 years old. So
no child labor laws.
That'd be 25 years ago, if you want to be very
in that.
back in the 90s, you could just do whatever the hell you wanted, and nobody cared, and you work at the coal mines, I guess. So that's super cool.
They had those back then.
Yeah, 20 years. Crazy 20 years.
Congrats
on
the anniversary.
Thank you. It doesn't feel like it.
We're going to have to do something big next year.
21.
No, that's the 25th.
I can. What? Oh, for the store.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course. I definitely would like to.
Yeah, it's that. Okay.
If you hear some weird buzzing, maybe our open sign that's off might be going out, even though it's off. I don't know how science works, but there you go. Hopefully you don't hear it.
Well, there's still power going to it. Until the switch is pulled, the power doesn't go through the whole thing.
Go unplug it then.
What the fuck, man? I got to get up and do that shit?
I don't know. Whatever. I don't want it blowing up in my face while we're recording. Anyway, whatever. Whatever. If we all die fiery death, it was the open sign.
Insurance covers it.
So we're going to talk about some stuff here. There was in fact, some of this I'm actually going to hold off the next week. There was a bunch of news from WonderCon. Some of this would be when Toby's here. I want to talk more about the Wildstorm anniversary panel. There was a few things. We'll talk briefly more of this if Toby's on later or next week.
The con in Dallas.
Yeah, there was a few cons this past weekend. So again, we'll talk briefly about a few of these. Geoff Johns was at the WonderCon panel where he did announce that he is actually going to be back doing some comic books this year for DC. Obviously, Justice Society and Legion of Superheroes are the two big theories because those are. I mean, especially Justice Society. That's a book he's so
well. We knew he was coming back
connected
with the Watchmen story.
Yeah, he is plotting the upcoming Flash and Flash and Batman crossover. The Arrow. God, I got Arrow on the brain. Apparently,
it's a normal episode. You keep jumbling your words.
The Flash and Batman crossover. The Button. That starts in 2 weeks from today, or 2 weeks from tomorrow, I guess Wednesday, with Batman 21.
Batman
right?
21, yes.
But so he's plotted that. He didn't write it, he didn't script it, but he did plot that. And then, he is going to return to do some comics for DC later in the year. We don't know what. Fingers crossed it's Legion. Fingers so crossed it's Legion.
Yeah, I think he's done Justice Society before. So I'd like to see him tackle Legion.
Oh, he's done Legion before, too.
Which one did
he's done every Legion story that wasn't an ongoing Legion comic. He did the Legion Red in Action comics. He did the Legion of Three Worlds. Yeah, he's done all the great Legion stuff in the last 15 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Besides those, he hasn't done the Legion book.
Yeah, he hasn't done an ongoing Legion comic. Well, I mean, he did the Adventure Comics run with Superboy Prime and Legion, so he did that. So, I mean, it's not specifically a Legion comic, but yeah, he's written a lot of Legion in the last 10, 15 years. 10 years, basically. So, you can't go wrong with that. I love me some Geoff Johns, as anyone that listens to this podcast knows. And if this is your first episode, now you know I love Geoff Johns. There you go. There's going to be, we can actually probably cover most of this. So there was a bunch of Batman stuff that got announced too. Batman, The War of Jokes and Riddles. This is something that Tom King had been teasing for a little while. They're going to go more into this in the next post button. I think it starts up around issue 25. Let me see. BatmanNews.com. These guys actually have a lot of good info on here on Batman stuff. So Batman issue 20 wraps up I Am Bane, which is this week. Batman 21-22 is the Button crossover. Hey, here's Toby. Batman 23 is the Batman Swamp Thing crossover entitled The Brave and the Mold.
The Brave and the Mold.
That
is good. That's a great
Toby,
title.
Perfect timing. We just started. I saved all the good stuff for you. Batman is going to have a Batman crossover issue called The Brave and the Mold. At least that was what Tom King teased the name of the issue is going to be, and I pray that that's really what it's called, because that'd be so awesome. And then, so they're going to go, this War of Jokes and Riddles is a year, hold on. Year one story.
I'm curious, though. Brave and the Mold, it's a great title, but is it the Gray that they're going to be dealing with?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
Because in New 52, Scott Snyder introduced, and Charles Soule introduced the Gray, which is like the was it mold and spores and all that stuff. It's in between the rot and the green.
Yep.
So interesting.
Yeah. So this War of Joker and Riddles is a Joker and Riddler kind of infighting over Batman, basically. Right. And it's let's see, what are they doing here? It's issue 25 through 32. That is the main story.
Wow,
with I think it's a good run. It's 8 issues, so it's going to have, and 25 is a double-sized anniversary issue, and then there's going to be a couple one shots in that mix to kind of mix it up. So, I mean, Tom King's Batman has been incredible, so we're very, very much looking forward to that. The other big Batman news. So this is not specifically Batman news. It was teased that there's a big Snyder Capullo comic coming up. And Greg Capullo gave the title away last year. He said there's going to be an arc called Metal. But we didn't really have any more info on that. We still don't really have a ton of info on it. But at the Fan Expo Dallas, Snyder and Capullo did say that this is not just a Batman story. This DC Comics Metal is going to be a big, crazy. They're talking about robots, or they're talking about dinosaurs with lasers and fighting all sorts of crazy nonsense and monsters, and just total nutso stuff. It's actually going to affect the entire Justice League and the entire DC universe. So this seems to be what we originally had heard, and not just a Batman crossover, but actually DC's first kind of big rebirth event.
Yeah.
There hasn't really been a DC Comics event since Forever Evil. You have Justice League Suicide Squad, which is
that was Justice League Family,
right? It was Justice League Squad. This seems like this is actually going to be a
line wide.
Well, it's probably not even going to be line wide, but this is going to be a bigger event that actually does touch on the entire DC universe. So, but again, we don't have a lot of info on that, so I don't want to go on for too much because there's a lot more that we need to talk about, and a lot more that we'll hear about. Toby, yes. I saved some good stuff for you. Okay. Did you, if you're ready, you can jump on mic here, and we'll talk about some of this stuff.
Hello.
I think down. It's on. Yeah, he's on. Hey, Toby, say hello.
What's up?
There he is. Did you see this Wildstorm 25th anniversary panel?
No.
From WonderCon?
I saw the posting.
Yeah, you saw it that exists, right? So we're going to get a book from Wildstorm 25th anniversary project. Let me grab the creator list here. Where is it? I got it here. They're going to have so lots of pinups, lots of just single original art, new stuff, right? Mm-hmm. There's going to be some classic reprint stuff in the back. Sean Phillips has a sleeper page. Liber Mayho has Death
Is that the thing that Jim Lee posted with all those Wildstorm characters together with Fairchild on the left?
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yep, that's an original. That's an original piece, but they're going to have new stories, including a Warren Ellis Brian Hitch Authority.
Cool.
J. Scott Campbell's going to do a new Gen 13 story.
Wow.
Which is unfucking believable.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Jim Lee's going to write and draw, apparently, a new Wildcats comic,
nice.
like OG Wildcats. Yeah. So, yeah.
It's going to be the best book ever?
Well, the fact that it's like
yes, it's going to be the best book ever.
Well, the fact that it's a one book, like hardcover, all in one, not like a bunch of one-offs or random crap. Like, it's a big collection, and especially getting Campbell to actually do an original Gen 13 comic, that alone will sell.
I mean, even if it's just a small little short thing.
Yeah, no, that's all he needs. So.
I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's super cool.
It's kind of like an anniversary box set.
Yep. I'm really excited for that. Now, I know we didn't talk about this a lot last week because
Oliver Nome.
Yeah, I figured I wanted you to. Yeah. You probably have a little more info on it than we do.
Yeah, no, I followed his career quite a bit. He's like one of the last Wildstorm guys to join the studio. And the reason why I followed his career so closely was, at first, part jealousy, because I was actually kind of mad at him. There was a contest for Wildstorm to join their studio. It was for 3 pages, maybe 4. Me and my buddy Paulo were going after it really hard. I mean, we're working nights on it. I don't know why I was so invested in it. I mean, I helped my friend out. I mean, if he won it, he would have been part of Wildstorm right now, not me.
Yeah, this is an art contest, right?
It's an art contest. Yeah. But you know, I laid out all the pages for him. I worked with him on the pages, like all-nighters and stuff like that. I mean, we really went hard after this. And well, obviously we didn't win. So this gentleman named Oliver Nome won, and you know, at first was part jealousy, of course, you know, but then I kind of followed his career just because, you know, curiosity of where it would go. It's kind of seeing an alternate timeline. And then I met him, and he's one of the nicest people that you can meet. I mean, just super cool. He fit right in with the, the Wildstorm crew. They're all really cool guys. They're like, every single one of them is super nice. Just nothing but good things to say about him. I mean, his art was magic. Like he was already good, like really good. And it was like, as he was working all those commissions, you see him like improving as he was working the studios. He even had a touch of kind of Turner look with it after a while too. But no, super cool dude. There's not a lot of stuff to point at because he worked on the DC Online with the rest of the Wildstorm crew.
I was going to ask, once Wildstorm shut down, was he mostly involved with
he was pretty much right at the beginning, like basically when Wildstorm took over DC Online. That was like a 5-year project. Yeah. So. That's why we never really. There's not a whole lot of work we can point at.
He doesn't have a lot of published work.
No, it's all. A lot of it is DC Online, but he did a lot of commissions at these cons.
Yeah,
like I said, he's a super nice guy. I'm very saddened that he's been battling cancer for a while.
Well, so the two parts of it, a long way to say that he did pass away. He was very young, too. 30-something. I don't remember how old he was. Yeah. Do you remember?
No, he's our age.
Yeah, he's a young guy, real young guy. Died of cancer. Yeah. They had a big anniversary. I'm sorry, a big, like, kind of, not memorial, but a big talk about him at the Wildstorm panel here.
Yeah. I would not be surprised if the Wildstorm book's going to get dedicated to him.
Probably, probably. Yeah. What happened to Wildstorm? And correct me if I get any of these bits wrong. It was sold. Jim Lee took it from Image, where he originally created it.
Well, he didn't take it from it. It was his.
But it's his, right? He took it from Image. He separated. He left Image, and sold it to DC Comics. I want to say 98, maybe 99. That sounds about right.
Probably,
because that's when Authority and Stormwatch had switched over, and DC started publishing all that stuff, and Planetary launched.
Yeah. There's like two sides of Wildstorm. There's the Wildstorm that was the artist-based Wildstorm, which is the ones I really got into.
And then there was all the Warren Ellis stuff, which is what I followed.
There's all the stuff that you were into. Yeah.
But that was what they launched at DC, was Planetary and Authority.
It was huge. It was huge.
So around, maybe 08, 09? Is that sound about maybe 2011? And it wasn't that late.
No, it wasn't 2011.
Because they had continued publishing Wildstorm stuff, but it wasn't like the real Wildstorm guys.
No, and then it became kind of like licensing deal.
Right.
Like, there was a lot of the World of Warcraft stuff.
Yeah, that all went through Wildstorm.
Yeah, I want to say there was a Thundercats under their label.
Yeah, yeah. That was earlier though.
Yeah.
So they didn't shut Wildstorm down, but it
the studio stayed, but it was more like a for-hire studio at that point.
Well, it moved over. It was Jim Lee. It was all Jim Lee's artists, and they all worked on the. How to put this? It's not the published comic books. It's not the published work. It's all design work, character models, character designs. They worked on the DC Universe Online game,
which was a huge project.
They worked on huge
Because for years and years, I'm like, "What are you guys working on?" They go,
"They
DC
can't talk." Yeah, I can't talk about.
No, they actually were.
But
it was year after year. They were like DC Online, DC Online, DC, like years. I'm like, "What are you putting a book again?" DC Online,
Well, they did all the tie-in art and promotional art for all the Batman Arkham games.
Yeah.
So it wasn't the actual comics that they were working on. They were working on all the art for everything else, the stuff that everyone in the world sees, right?
Yeah.
Only some
marketing,
which makes sense. I mean, that's their strong suit. It's a fantastic group of artists.
Yeah, well, I know like Carlos Standa, he actually did a lot of the Arkham comics. So there was the tie-in comics, the digital comics.
Yeah.
So a lot of those
Another super cool guy.
Yeah.
I literally every one of those Wildstorm guys are super. I mean, Joel Gomez, right? All of them. JJ Kirby.
Did they collapse the San Diego office and it's now just all fully in Burbank? It's all together?
I think some of the guys are still in San Diego. Some of them got moved. Some of them, they're all kind of like spread out a little bit. And because I hear the guys that say they miss working together.
Yeah.
Eddie Nunes is another one of those guys.
But
that's kind of like the second generation, like the original, you have the Cliffhanger crew, it's Humberto Ramos, the J. Scott Campbell,
Too bad they couldn't get Ramos back because he's exclusive with Marvel now.
Madeira is one of the Cliffhanger guys. But it's just phenomenal core or group of artists that were working together. So I kind of miss that. I mean, when you talk of studios, it's like Wildstorm you think of right away.
Yeah. Well, I think this is they've had issues trying to get these books published through the years, and Wildcats relaunches has had a few a few false starts and
the Jim Lee Morrison.
Yeah, that's probably honestly it's probably more Morrison than Jim Lee.
That was that's what I hear.
Jim Lee doesn't. When he's on a project, he delivers. Yeah, right. He could be slow, but he delivers.
Well, but he also knows his limitations, so he can say, "I can do this much."
Yeah, All-Star Batman isn't Jim Lee.
Jim is not slow. He just has a lot of fucking work on his hand.
Well, it's like All-Star Batman isn't Jim Lee. That was Frank Miller, right? Yeah. The Miller just gave up on the book. Yeah, because who knows, right? So anyway, Wildstorm 25th anniversary, and
I'm super excited for this book. I haven't. So the panel's online, right?
I don't know if the full panel. Oh, okay. I'm sure it is.
Yeah, I want to check that out. My schedule's been fucking bonkers.
You can trace Wildstorm almost directly to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It probably would have happened anyway. But if you take a look at what Warren Ellis and Brian Hitch did it with Authority. That leads to Ultimates. That leads to a huge success for the Ultimate Comics, which is what that basically is what the script they used for the early Marvel Cinematic movies was they took the Ultimate formula and approached it there. Without Wildstorm, I don't know that we would have had Ultimates, and without Ultimates, I don't know that we would have had the same Marvel Cinematic Universe that we do today. So it all comes back to those Wildstorm, that early DC Wildstorm. Yeah. That is when everything shifted, and obviously Wildcats. I mean, with Wildcats, Spawn, and Savage Dragon, and Youngblood. I mean, that is all comes out of Marvel. The launch of Image Comics. It's incredible the ripple effect these guys have had in the industry.
The ripple effect Jim Lee and Campbell and Larson and McFarlane have had in the industry since the early 90s.
Yeah, well, they've gone off in some pretty different directions, but it is...
The influence is there.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not just your damn writers, Ryan Higgins.
No, right, because Authority wouldn't exist without Jim Lee leaving X-Men and making Wildcats, right? I mean, no, this is the path for all this stuff, and it starts with Wildcats and goes forward.
Well, I feel like any strong creators, it doesn't matter in what medium, they're going to leave the imprint, and those guys are some of those strong creators. I mean, writers definitely also. It's they left the imprint. So.
I mean, if nothing else, it'll be great to see Jessica Campbell do some interior work because he just doesn't anymore.
No, he doesn't. No, I mean,
he doesn't
have to. Man, that dude has figured it out, man. I can't even. Well, can't be mad at him.
Outside the variants and everything like that, he's like, yeah, Star Wars. Let me do some work for you. Cool, I'll do some prints. Like, sure. Like that dude just prints money.
If your art is that sought after, fuck it.
Yeah.
I mean, he hasn't made. Good for him.
Yeah. Let's move on. A couple other things. So I think for the most part we're gonna. Oh well, no. There was one more big thing that I definitely wanted Toby to be here for.
Oh.
While not official, while it hasn't happened yet, Variety last week reported that DC and Warner Brothers is making a Batgirl movie, Barbara Gordon Batgirl movie. And Joss Whedon is set to produce, write, and direct.
Sure.
Is that just the most perfect
probably
idea?
Kind of. Now, you remember back when he was rumored to take over Wonder Woman?
Yeah.
I was actually kind of against that one.
I don't see Wonder Woman in Whedon.
That was not the right fit. I felt like. But
Batgirl.
Batgirl, I was like, you know what? That's a pretty damn good combo.
Yeah.
So I'm all for that. I hope with Nightwing being announced also that maybe it's all interconnected based on the old Dixon stuff. Personally, I kind of want her in a wheelchair. I'm sorry, Barbara. I want you in a wheelchair.
Well, I want to paralyze you.
I don't know where this comes from. Obviously, no one has.
I mean, who knows? Maybe it's a whole trilogy planned. What at the end of the movie she gets paralyzed, and then you have a paralyzed movie, and then she comes back. I'd be all for it.
Yeah, it says it does take its influence from the Gail Simone New 52 run of Batgirl.
Oh, thank God.
So. Yeah, not the Burnside stuff.
Burnside hipster shit.
Yeah, I feel like Gail's Batgirl. I mean, that's the only time we've had Batgirl.
That's the only modern
in modern, right?
Without the wheelchair,
right? So there's no other way to really do that. And I mean, you could do the stuff from the 70s and 60s, but it wouldn't. Yeah. That's not the stories, right?
I think Gail did an amazing job, establishing Batgirl as her own individual character in her run.
Well,
she's always been like with Birds of Prey and her in the wheelchair. Like she was her own character, but I think this was, like you said, the first time we really got to see Batgirl by herself, not attached to Birds, not attached to Nightwing or Batman, or because there's nothing really. Prior to this,
I think
in Birds she wasn't really attached. She was the leader. She was the main character.
Yeah, but she wasn't Batgirl different. In there. She was Oracle.
I think the stories that Gail Simone had were good. I think her interpretation of Barbara was awesome.
Yeah.
But the characters and the villains, it suffered the problem that a lot of the New 52 stuff had, where it's like, well, this just isn't classic. These aren't really the characters that we associate with Batgirl. So I hope they take the feel, the mood, the costume, the tone, but apply it to a little more traditional Batman story arcs.
I'm sure they will.
Yeah,
I'm sure they will.
Inspired by, not based on.
Yeah, but no, I thought that was... If it's true, I mean, we haven't... There's no official announcement
nothing,
yet, right?
No. This all comes from Variety.
Yeah, but if it's true, hell yeah. That's a really good fit.
We have, 18, 19 Marvel Cinematic movies, and Captain Marvel is the only one that's a solo female lead. And you have Ant-Man Wasp, I guess, if you want to count that.
Yeah.
What were they doing? Did they scrap Black Widow?
There was never a Black Widow.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So DC already has Wonder Woman, which comes out this year. Again, Batgirl, if it happens. The Birds of Prey, the Gotham City Sirens movie. So lots of potential for female characters. I
wouldn't be surprised if she's spinning out of that movie too.
It starts Gotham City Sirens and Batgirl happens.
Yeah, would not be surprised.
Yep.
I mean, if they have this cool Bat family of movies planned.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good time to be alive.
I mean, look, I love the whole DC universe, but I know what side, I know what side of the money the Batman prints. You know what I'm trying to say? Like it's Batman. Batman makes the money. They're gonna go full hog with Batman. I'm totally down with it.
As long as it's done right.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a nice time.
That bat bucks. You need your bat money. Okay. So let's move on to some other stuff here. Marvel's had a very interesting week, to say the least. And I've been pretty positive on Marvel. I'm actually going to continue to be pretty positive on Marvel through the rest of this episode. But so there's a handful of things that here at the podcast we were very specifically tied to that I think is very interesting. First, if you are a fan of Marvel Comics and their digital codes, you can breathe easy. They announced officially starting in May. I believe it's the first week in May.
Yeah.
So just a couple weeks. The codes that are in the Marvel Comics to get you a digital copy of that comic is returning.
Yes.
So when you buy Secret Empire #1, it will have a code in there for a digital copy of Secret Empire #1, as well as an additional free classic Marvel comic. So what they originally had was the code. If you bought, Star-Lord #3, you got a digital copy of Star-Lord #3. Back in February, they took those codes out, replaced it with a sort of 3-issue best of, here's some first issues of current or upcoming trade paperbacks or story arcs. While cool, it wasn't what you bought. So people would buy these comics, sell the codes, trade them with their friends. I had multiple customers. I had at least one customer that would take the code, keep it, give the comics to friends or nephews or kids, and ship them off to other people. I had a number of customers that bought the comics from me, used the code, and just gave me back the comics because they just want the digital code, and they wanted to buy it through the store. And they didn't want to use the app. They wanted to physically buy the comics. So it did take Marvel a couple months to kind of get this worked out, but I'm very happy to report that they are going back. Far from me to take all the credit on this, but I was definitely involved with another group of retailers in getting this kind of, talking to Marvel about this. We have been doing a thing for the past month where I've been able to email in the comics that my customers bought that they want the digital codes and their email address, and Marvel would send them copies of those digital codes for free. Right? This is something that any comic store can do. I don't know how...
Again, I bought every single comic book that got published during those weeks.
Well, they did kind of give us sort of, carte blanche on February. They said, just send us a list. We'll send it to them. For March and April, I have to send them a copy of the receipt. Yeah. For some stores, easier to do than others. We have a point-of-sale system that separates out by title. I don't know how stringent they are going to be on that if a store emails them tomorrow. But if you do buy your comics... and you didn't buy those comics because they didn't have the digital code, you should ask your retailer if he is willing to email Marvel and get you those digital codes. Now, I mean, you are supposed to buy the comics, right? Hopefully you do. I have a half dozen, maybe 7 or 8 customers that I've done this for. So, they're bringing back the codes. That's awesome. We've needed that, I think.
Are the codes can be in every single comic or just chosen few?
No, every comic.
Yep.
And actually starting tomorrow, DC is putting digital codes in all their single issue or special issues, single shipping issues or special issues. So they're not doing it for the twice a month books like Action Comics, Batman, Detective. But stuff like Blue Beetle,
Cyborg is the one that comes out tomorrow.
Cyborg, Cyborg's the first one that's going to have a digital code inside. They did raise the price on those books to $3.99 from $2.99, but like Marvel, you now get a digital code. All things like Dark Knight anniversary issues. Sorry, not anniversary issues. I mean,
are they doing it with Dark Knight, or are they starting afterwards? Because Dark Knight.
Well, they may not do the last issue of Dark Knight, but things like that.
Yeah.
Will all have digital codes going forward.
Because I know Flintstones doesn't have it. Fall in the Rise of Captain Atom doesn't have it coming out.
So it might be for new stuff.
I think it's new stuff going forward. For now, it's just monthly titles like Cyborg, Blue Beetle, Batwoman's going to have it.
Yep.
Which, this is what boggles my mind. It's going to start with
Super
issue
Sons.
2. To me, it's like DC should... Hey, here's the digital code for the rebirth
0 and 1.
Like a rebirth.
Maybe they will.
In 1.
I mean, we don't know.
I mean, that's what they should do.
Yeah, maybe they will. Right? I have no clue. We'll find out when the issue comes out.
Because that's kind of awkward to start that close and not have those digital copies. And then,
I mean, when Marvel started all these digital codes, it was like they just started it 1 month. It wasn't like they started with their current arc. So, if you buy 2 issues digitally and now you get the comics, whatever.
But I think it shows a little bit more, hey, digital is a way you can get your comics. It's like it makes it more inviting for people versus, hey, here's 2. You can buy 1 in Rebirth if you really want.
Well, I mean, maybe they will, maybe they won't.
Yeah,
I'm a little bummed about the dollar raise, but
that's why it's not on the double issues.
Yeah.
So the ones that are twice a month are not going up.
Yeah.
At least for now.
Yeah.
I can't say by the end of the year,
Yeah.
they won't. But that is asking a lot. Marvel is going to double ship a lot of $3.99 comics this year. We'll see how it does for them. All the X-Men stuff is going to be double shipping. If those books don't sell well,
I think I just heard Bryce's wallet scream,
start crying,
and cry at the same time.
But Marvel's gonna experiment with double shipping their big titles, and DC obviously, have been doing it to some success. Now, it's very possible that DC could, as new titles start coming out, they start slowly cutting those double shipping to get, because that was never the plan. They said they were only going to double ship for the first few months because there were so few titles coming out that first month from Rebirth.
Yeah.
They wanted a kind of standard number of books on the shelf, so they didn't anticipate to continue to double ship at this rate, but they sold so well that they kept it going.
Yeah, and they've done a great job. I mean, there's only been a couple of titles that have been late.
Barely any.
Yeah.
And it was not for the book that wasn't late because it was late. It was late for weird printing problem reasons. Or we got a variant cover a week later, weird stuff. There was very little problems.
Nightwing had that.
And Green Lanterns had one issue that shipped a little late. Yeah. So that's awesome. Again, if you like those digital codes, those are there. All right, so now let's talk about the big topic here. On last weekend, not this a weekend that just happened, but the prior weekend, Marvel had their retailer meeting. I think we talked about this last week a little bit.
We talked about it a little bit because not much was said by retailers
publicly
going out of it, but they said they had it was a positive feeling coming out of it.
Yep.
I think you had said if going in was like a 2, they came out at like a
it's like an 8 or something.
An 8 or something. And with what the conversation that you've had with Marvel, 4 weeks ago now?
Yeah, about
the
that.
phone conference. I mean, it seemed like good things were coming.
Yeah, yep. So Marvel actually reached out to other retailers, including myself. I don't know how many. I have no idea. But they provided us with the presentation that Marvel had at the retailer summit.
Okay.
So I got to see that. I signed an NDA. I cannot talk about it with anyone on this podcast.
Not with an NDA.
I'm sorry. However, I am allowed to say a few things, and here's what
Toby, I think he just loves rubbing in our face that he signed an NDA.
NDAs are not fun, man.
I don't want to get sued by Disney.
Yeah.
Well, no.
But I will. Of course, I'm going to abide by the rules.
NDA is far too much. I totally know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And let me tell you what I am allowed to say. If I was a 2 going in, I was an 8 coming out.
Okay.
Not a perfect 10?
Not a perfect 10.
Okay.
There's always room to grow.
Yeah.
All right.
Because there's no runaways, right?
There's not a perfect 10.
No comment.
You mean New Warriors.
You're evil, Toby. You're
not a perfect 10.
You're poking that NDA beast there.
But if you have been less than happy with Marvel over the last 18 months or so, I think you have a lot to look forward to for the rest of the year for Marvel. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see. Now, some stuff I could talk about because Bleeding Cool has posted articles and Variety and I don't know specifics of a lot of stuff. I don't know very many specifics, but everything that's on ICV2 and Bleeding Cool, we'll talk about that here coming up. But yes, I was excited before. I am even more excited now. I am. There's a lot still unclear. But I think Marvel has figured it out. They are turning it around. There is going to be at least, assuming they can get over this past weekend. There will be a lot of happy comic book fans going forward. Now let's talk about this past weekend.
Yes.
So on Thursday or Friday, ICV2, which is a comic, very kind of dry comic news site that doesn't get a lot of press, but they got a lot of press this past week because they actually were at the Marvel Summit and got to report on it. And so a lot of the elements that are in this press conference, that were in this presentation, they actually discuss that in more detail than I expected because I can't really talk about what I saw. But they talked about it in this on these two retailer summit articles that they published. Now They talked about many things, about the price of trade paperbacks, about Toby. I know something you probably saw where Alex Alonso said it's very difficult for them to get artists to move the needle on the comic books. The characters, the big stories, the writers, they see a shift when they put big names on these titles or important characters, but they're having a difficult time getting artists to really click to really bump those numbers up.
These days, maybe.
I don't know if you have a comment on that. You're the big art guy.
Well, if you put Jim Lee on an Avengers book right now, trust me, that shit's going to sell bonkers.
Well, you wouldn't have Jim Lee on an X-Men book, but
if you have Turner coming back from the grave and doing, Captain Marvel, it's going to sell fucking bonkers.
Well, I had said
where are the superstar artists now?
Campbell, Adam Hughes, Jim Lee.
Yeah.
Question mark, right?
It is kind of it.
So,
I think from my perspective on the art stuff, it's that a lot of the art when I read a book, it somehow doesn't click. Like some of the titles just have a difficult time clicking. Like Lemire and Drenko are a great creative team.
Markochenko?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or no, Sorrentino. Sorry.
Old Man Logan.
Yeah, Old Man Logan. So they're a great creative team of writer and artist.
Yeah,
we saw it in their X-Men stuff was good, or him on X-Men was good with what he did. The Green Arrow stuff was great. So him going over to Old Man Logan, both of those creators going to Old Man Logan worked really, really well. Mm-hmm. The artist that they have on Thanos, which is what Gregor or D, was it D?
On Thanos, Mike Diato.
Yeah. Him, he's a great artist for that character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
But you turn around and you go over to Avengers right now. You have Wade and DeMundo, and I'm not against DeMundo's artwork. Yeah. It just does not work for that book. I think there's a numerous titles that in the Marvel universe right now that the art just does not work for the book.
Well, let me read part of this piece from ICV2 where they quote Alex Alonso. He says, there are fewer artists that impact sales than there are writers. They're harder to promote. So that was like a paraphrase.
You also don't have the hype machine that's Wizard Magazine anymore.
It's harder to pop artists these days, he said. There is no apparatus out there. There is no Wizard Magazine out there that told you who the top 10 the hot top 10 artists were. We don't have that anymore.
There literally were a hype machine back then. They were just hyping shit up.
So Bleeding Cool says they do it, but it's not the same.
No.
He says we can hype our artists all we want, but I don't know if we have any, I don't know how many artists besides maybe Steve McNiven and Oliver Copiel absolutely move the needle on anything to be drawn. And I even say, I'm not ordering extra because McNiven and Copiel are working.
No, they're not doing it. No.
Those are great artists, but they're not putting those guys on fucking Squirrel Girl. They're putting McNiven and Copiel on big major event books and major titles.
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say that, I mean, Old Man Logan, Andres Martino, I guarantee you is moving copies because of his art. Art's incredible. But this is just Marvel and DC on a whole right now. There are not a lot of artists that are driving the books, but it really there hasn't been for a while.
Bring back the Wildstorm guys. Actually, they didn't. I mean, except for Jim and Superstars. Carlos Zana. Who the hell knows him except for me, Lane, and some artist-driven people.
Well, I think we're at a different point now. Yeah. The writers sell the comics, the artists sell variant covers. This is but that's not. I'm not saying this as a knock. We have seen in comics the people that follow the characters and the writers, and the people that follow the artists have diverged so greatly from each other.
But I feel like there is good talent out there, like the dude that did that Red Sonja cover, our buddy Milton Bob.
Oh yeah. John B. Myers, he's local too, which I didn't realize.
I think he's awesome.
Yeah,
if they put him on a hot book,
he's actually going to do a signing over at Elusive.
Oh,
I think in a week or two.
Elusive, not.
Well, I didn't know he was local. I had no idea.
You know nothing, Ryan Higgins. No, but I think he's great. I mean, I feel like if
he's got that old like Wild, like that second gen Wildstorm style.
If he put him on some hot titles, I think he could build a name for himself.
Well, they got him on Royals this week, the new Marvel and Humans book.
Oh, they do? Nice. I mean, it's tougher. It's definitely a different market now.
Well, and a lot of these guys, not that Jim Lee or what's his face, Liefeld or any of these guys. A lot of them weren't doing 12 issues a year back then, but especially some of these guys who were like, "Oh, you're on Batman? That's 24 issues, all right?" It is tough to get these guys to really hit. The guys that are getting the big money that have the draw on the names, they're just doing covers. They're doing their own things. It's Campbell, it's Hughes, it's Jim Lee. There's no reason to have these guys doing interiors. They don't have to, right?
Yeah. No, you slap a Jim Lee cover on it, you can sell X number more of Wildstorm number 1 and Wildstorm number 2 and Wildstorm number 3.
And I did. I ordered.
I don't blame these guys. They've done their time in the industry. It's time for new guns to come up. So But
what's going to make that next new artist just explode that everyone loves? It's real hard.
That's really tough now.
And I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think it's partly finding what fits with the character. I mean, because that was part of the appeal of those Wildstorm creators and those artists back in the early 90s and late 90s was we got this new talent that was working on kind of these newish books. Herberto Ramos was doing Crimson, and people were getting behind that book. Campbell had his Gen 13, his Danger Girl, and all that stuff. So you have and Turner had Fathom and Soulfire. So it's like you had all these really great talents coming up from books that they really had a passion about and really worked on, and then they moved over to.
Well, the indie guys are not doing art that's going to work for the big superhero crowd. Yeah. They're completely separate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The indie guys that are working on image titles or the small press stuff.
Story driven.
Oh, it is story driven. The webcomic guys, it's not the same. Yeah. There is that Jim Lee life, because you can
larger than life art is kind of gone.
Those guys go back to Neil Adams, who go back to Kirby, who go back to the Golden Age stuff.
Yeah.
You see this lineage, and then it just ends.
It does.
Right? There is no one that picked up that mantle, and it's diverged in so many different directions now.
Yeah. I think Turner was the last one.
Basically, right?
He really was.
Yeah.
Because you figure Sylvester, Jim, and those guys was kind of the superstars, and the second generation of that is kind of Campbell, Turner, and Humberto to extent, and it kind of just went away. Well, Turner passed. But
Yep. And, we have guys that I love, like Frank Quitely.
Just figured shit out. So.
Yeah. We have guys like Frank Quitely and Andrea Sorrentino that I love, and Mikhail Hanin, and there's some amazing artists but they're not. They're not for you and Brock, right?
Well, I really like Nicola Scott.
Yeah, but she's not. Her art style isn't going to be for the guy that wants Jim Lee, right?
No.
Mike Diodato is a great artist, but
he's awesome.
He has a style, and that's just something that isn't going to appeal to everyone. You have a lot. You have what's his face?
Amanda Connor.
Oh, sure, right. But again, it's her own thing.
Yeah.
Maybe David Finch he popped for a second, but it was Finch isn't going to sell a title on his own, right? I mean,
not after the Forever Evil debacle.
Well, he did that Dark Knight book, and it sold okay, and because his art was great, but the writing was just sort of blah. Yeah. So I mean, this is why. But again, again, Tom King on Omega Men is not going to sell Tom King on Batman with
DC kind of has a family of artists that aren't necessarily selling books, but people like Ivan Rice but
they work smartly with creators on the big titles.
Yeah, so it's like you have Ivan Rice, Ethan Van Sciver. You have who's the guy on Justice League, the variant? Oh, what's his name? Monkey.
Oh, Doug Monk,
Doug Monkey, right?
Yeah.
Works with Tomasi a lot.
Yep.
You have these really good pairings of artist and writer, and I think that those are selling books versus just the artist is selling the book, or a writer is selling more so than the artist. But I think we're getting more.
Well, the consumer has also gotten more smarter over time. Just art's not going to do it anymore,
right? Well, also, but I mean, even if you look at Image, right? You throw a Kirkman on Outcast, and that's not Walking Dead. Right? It doesn't sell Walking Dead numbers. You have, you put Brubaker on a title, and you don't put Sean Phillips on that title. I don't think it's going to sell quite the same, right? I mean, Velvet did well, but it didn't do quite as good as the Sean Phillips stuff, at least for us. So I think it is this combo of artist and writer obviously is what we want. You don't want shit art. You don't want shit writing.
Yeah. You want the. I mean, I think because we came from art and story, and just it. You can have a great story, but if the art's crap, sorry, Johns and Romita Jr. But you have great art. But
Gerard did some great stuff in his time.
In his time.
Well, here's what I said over the weekend. I said, the guys coming in for the writers and the characters come in every week. The guys that come in for the art come in whenever their artists do something, which is not every week, right? And that's just.
Well, after a while, when you have boxes and boxes and boxes of comics that you don't read, you get tired too. I'm speaking of maybe self.
Well, I mean, do you feel like, the Nightwing comic is probably not your favorite drawn comic of all time, but you love that character?
Yeah.
Do you keep getting it because of the character?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's certain characters I will just forever buy.
Yeah. And I think,
But that's because I love the character, and it's because there are storylines that made me love the character.
Yeah, if Jim Lee does a variant cover for Hellblazer, you might buy it.
Yeah, quite likely.
But you're not going to even look at it if otherwise. You know what I mean. You know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
Just picked the wrong book.
You know what I mean. A couple. I mean, there's a number of other.
Off a tangent though. There's a lot to talk about the stuff there though.
Well, there is. There's a lot more to still talk about.
We kind of went way off tangent here.
There's a lot more to talk about.
Some good shit there.
Marvel. A lot of this comes from David Gabriel, who I've talked about in this podcast before, and changing my tune on him a little bit. He's a pretty cool guy. Just gotta, I think Marvel's learning. They're opening up a bit. Stuff like Maxi Series, big events. There's not going to be any more big events for Marvel for at least 18 months post Secret Empire.
Please, thank you very much.
There's going to be almost no number one giant relaunches at this point.
Please, thank you very much.
There was an article.
X-Men Gold #1 comes out tomorrow.
It does.
Sorry.
Well,
I know.
There was an article on Comic Book Resources, and I hadn't actually done the math on this, so good on this guy. This was up a day or two ago, so you should be able to find it. Where they tracked down how many titles they sell, how many titles have come out. They said that Marvel's launched since Secret Wars.
Yeah, I've read this.
104, I believe. It was 102, 104?
104.
104 new titles. In 20 months?
Yeah.
That is fucking insane.
Yeah.
That is insane.
I mean, for people like me, I got so lost with all the renumberings.
Yeah.
I got so lost. You asked me, are you still picking up stuff? I'm like, I
don't
no
know.
fucking clue which series, which number it is. I have no clue what I have at home. I'm so completely lost at it. So,
well, I mean, Silk had that problem. Mighty Thor had that problem. Ant-Man had that problem to an extent.
Everything did, right?
It's like there was this huge. There was this just pump out the #1 because that's going to make us money. Pump out the #1 because that's going to make us money. And it's like, no, your Mighty Thor numbers are fucking fine.
Yeah.
Just keep the numbering going.
Yep. So the big one, of course, was the big D, and that's diversity.
Oh, shit.
So one of the very first things I talked about at this retailer meeting that was reported on ICV2, and these are the quotes that got picked up. Let me read this. Variety does a nice job of kind of summing this up a little bit here, so let me read you the key parts. This comes from David Gabriel, VP of Sales, I believe. Senior Vice President of Print Sales and Marketing, David Gabriel, says, what we have heard was that people didn't want any more diversity.
Which is completely wrong.
They didn't want female characters out there. That's what we've heard, whether we believe it or not. We saw the sales of any character that was diverse, any character that was new, our female characters, anything that was not a core Marvel character, people were turning their nose up against. This was difficult for us because we had a lot of fresh, new, exciting ideas that we were trying to get out, and nothing new really worked. That's the quote that got blasted everywhere, and now that it's been Monday and Tuesday, big sites are picking it up like Variety.
Can you blame it? How that's like one of the worst quotes ever.
So I happened to be just on the right when that bell curve started rising up.
Yes, you were.
I had a nice long set of tweets over the weekend about this.
So I want to say something. I actually shared this on my Facebook or Twitter. And then, like, right afterwards, your wife posted something. So, but it's like, this is well, it's like this roller coaster.
My responses actually came against an article written by Joe Glass on Bleeding Cool, where it titles
that came out Sunday.
That was Saturday because it was the same day I wrote it. Because it was direct market versus diversity, right?
Yes.
And in his, let me read you his reply. All right, this was part.
This reply to you?
No. This was an article that
Joe Glass is a writer for
Bleeding Cool. This was an article on Bleeding Cool, that he wrote, saying, Marvel's having this problem with diversity, where their characters, they have all these characters that aren't selling, right? And his reply was, going back to Gabriel's comments earlier and his revised statement about some retailers saying the problems was diversity and the abandonment of the original characters. This speaks to the fact that the vast majority of local comic shop owners would probably quite easily fit into the demographic description of 40-plus, white, cis, straight male. We have heard many stories over the years of how audience members or people who wish to be audience members for the medium who do not fit into those particular demographics have found comic shops unwelcoming and the experience of joining the medium daunting. Thus, at the end of the day, as the system is what it is right now, it is essentially retailers who are making those decisions, and sometimes they might not be making them on actual hard facts, but perception of what they think will work because of what has worked before. Experience is, of course, vital, but so is willingness to adapt as times change.
So it's your fault, Higgins.
Well, so while I was not specifically responding to the
Daniel.
Well, while I was not officially responding to the David Gabriel piece about the diversity, of course, I was responding to this Bleeding Cool article, but because of that, I also ended up talking about the entire situation.
Yeah.
Of course, Rich Johnson, on Sunday, as I happened to be out, suddenly my phone started exploding, and I'm like, what is this? And I'm like, oh, Rich Johnson posted like 90 tweets of mine in a gigantic article on Bleeding Cool.
Yeah, you wrote.
That's also the day where Ryan stopped responding to me, so the dude gets one article written on Bleeding Cool. He's like, too fucking cool.
Leanne took me out for my birthday. I was riding a train in the hills, and I'm like, why does my phone keep going off? What is happening?
Rich Johnson.
So if you have joined this podcast for the very first time because of you followed me on Twitter and you read this article, thank you. Hopefully you've enjoyed. There's 303 of these we've done. Go back and listen to the rest.
And there'll be more.
I'm sure I said some really dumb shit in some previous episodes, but hopefully this episode's okay.
I think all of us have.
So I'm not going to read my own tweets on this thing, but various things I did talk about where I said, we are operating on most retailers are operating on fact. We have sales history, right? Yes. We know what we've sold. I put up the numbers for Mosaic. I put up the numbers for Cyborg. Sort of taking two examples.
That's not even just you. I mean, when I was at Legends, I did the orders. I had old school way of my binder system, jotting down every week how many books I sold.
I used to, right?
And that's how I did my orders.
Right.
I based my orders on talking to people that came into the store and how many I sold. Yep. If it didn't fucking sell, I'm not going to order it. It's fucking normal, logical thinking.
Yeah, it's smart. It's smart business thinking.
It's not. It's logical. It's like if shit doesn't sell, you don't fucking order it.
I mean, I've looked at books from Image, books from Dynamite, books from Boom, and said this looks similar to other books that I have not sold. I am not going to order it. I mean, look, I'm not going to say I don't see color, because that's a stupid thing to say. But Motor Girl was an example of people. An article on Bleeding Cool ran that said the Image title, where they're like, "Oh,
no, you're thinking Motor Crush."
Motor Crush, sorry, not Motor Girl. Yeah, Motor Crush. Sorry, where people said, "Oh." Some anonymous retailer said, I'm not going to order this because it's a black lead. Well, look, if that's true, that's fucking racist and stupid, right? I didn't order a ton, but I ordered a handful. We sell a bunch of them, right?
People come in asking for that.
Yeah, we got some.
The thing is you put it fell under the same category that all Image titles fall under.
Yeah.
You order 5 and see how the 5 do.
If it's Robert Kirkman, Ed Brubaker,
Greg Rucka,
Brian K. Vaughan,
Rick
Remender
up there.
Remender now.
Okay, yes.
With 7 New Eternity suddenly. Woof.
Yeah. What about Hickman? I've seen solicitations that Dying in the Dead is continuing.
Yeah, good luck with that. So with a lot of these guys, and yes, all straight white guys, I have a sales history for these creators. I understand what they're going to sell. Mm-hmm. Brandon Fletcher and Babs Tar, I knew I could get that out right. We didn't do well with Batgirl here. This is the creative team on Batgirl. It didn't sell. It sold okay, but it didn't sell great here. I ordered roughly the equivalent of what I sold at the end of my Batgirl, or at the end of their Batgirl run, and it sold exactly like that Batgirl run.
Yeah,
that is my audience, right?
Well, but you have a history. You based it off of what are the sales history that I have at this store. You also put in like what is my standard for a new Image title that's coming out? Because I mean, in the past, retailers have been burned by Image where they're like, "Oh, I ordered like 30 copies. It's a new Image #1. It's going to be the shit," and you're left with 29 copies.
Yeah. So I have a couple tweets that I will read here because, again, any longtime listener to the podcast, this is all stuff you've heard before. But I said, Marvel cut mainstays like the Fantastic Four and Wolverine for solo and slapstick. Half their line is unrecognizable and the rest aren't up to quality. Something I had said previously in the weekend related to this was readers don't hate diversity. They hate that these characters are replacing their favorite characters. That's why there's animosity towards these characters. It's not, I hate Moon Girl because she's a black woman. It's, I hate Moon Girl because I can't buy a Wolverine comic now because these books are here and my favorites aren't. It's like, while the anger may seem the same, that's not why people are mad. So, continuing, I said, while with Rebirth performing so strongly, people will check out Cave Carson and Raven. I have customers coming in because of DC, so they'll look. Since no one is coming in for X-Men or Wolverine, they don't buy Daredevil or Captain America, and certainly not Moon Girl or Silk. So, yes, what we heard was that people didn't want any more diversity. That is 100% accurate. However, they also don't want the Inhumans, Avengers, or Venom. This is not a diversity problem, although it is unintentionally. Yeah. The problem is... go ahead.
It's hard because I just took my friends' kids to the movies, and the oldest one is getting into a high school age and stuff like that. So she's starting to pay attention and stuff. And I had an interesting conversations with her because I didn't even think of it that way. Because, the Thor girl, which, we accept because it's a good story and so on.
Yeah, yeah.
She goes and, she goes, all these heroes are being replaced by women. I'm like, what you think? She goes, I think it's great.
Yeah, yeah.
She's really into it. If she, she were to pick up books now, these are the books she would pick up. And her brothers were like, no, that's stupid, blah, blah, this, blah, blah, that. But I thought, it was ballsy for Marvel to do this. It was, in ways like the right move. This is what we need. But then we go, we're missing the pillars.
Right.
We always talk about the pillars. If the pillars are not there, none of this other stuff is going to work.
No.
Well, I mean, Thor is an example of Jason Aaron started his Thor run. Mm-hmm. It went 25 issues, and then he shook things up, and he changed it, and he gave us Jane Foster Thor. And it's great because, yes, Toby said, it's a great story. The art's amazing on it. Like, it's a good, solid book. Am I mad that there's no longer a, Odin's son Thor running around? No, because I'm getting a good quality book. Now, what are we getting now? 2 years after this has happened? We're getting the Unworthy Thor. So we're bringing back Thor into the mix. It's not like he went away. He's been around.
A little bit.
He pops up here and there within the book.
Again, but this is the problem.
This is at the same time where there's no Fantastic Four, no X-Men, no Avengers that we recognize.
But again, your favorite character is Thor. I have a guy, right? This nothing against the guy. Guy's one of my nicest customers. He only buys a couple titles. He comes in every time though, and he goes, I like this Thor comic. I've been buying Thor my entire life, but where's Thor? Right?
Yeah.
He's not like, I hate women. That's not what he's saying. He's like, well, I like this, but I'm kind of ready for my character to return.
Yeah.
This is like what happened during the Electric Blue Superman and Azrael. There were plans for these characters to come back. It feels like Marvel did this, and they're like, and bye-bye. X-23 is Wolverine now. Goodbye. So this
it's been a long time.
It has been a while. So again, Marvel's in a place where they can have, and I think we've talked about this before many times, it would work so well for Marvel to have not two divergent lines, but you have your classics, you have your core base characters, and then you have the couple that survive. Now, this Comic Book Resources article I talked about earlier, or CBR, I guess we're not Comic Book Resources anymore.
I didn't want to correct you.
Yeah.
But I wanted to.
CBR.com. When they actually tracked all the characters, the majority of the books that failed the hardest were actually straight white male characters, normal traditional characters. Books like Drax, books like Solo, books like Fool Killer. Right? I mean, these were the books that failed the hardest. The quote unquote diversity titles actually overall performed. I mean, they performed poorly, but not as poorly as a lot of these books. So it wasn't, again, if we had all the classics are performing great, and then Moon Girl comes in, much like something like Shade the Changing Girl from DC. When you have 100 people buying Batman, 10% will continue to look down that wall and see what else is there. And a handful are going to buy Shade the Changing Girl. I saw like 12 copies.
Absolutely.
12 copies is more than like my bottom 20 Marvel comics combined.
Well, you took 4 books off of the. You put 4 books to sub this week.
The sub only,
and
right?
One
on
of
FOC.
those was the Mighty Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
And that one has been littered with renumberings and creative team.
I'm not even
and it's like
Mighty Captain Marvel. I'm down to 2 copies, subscription only, no shelf copies.
And the thing is it stems from Miss Marvel, which when Miss Marvel was out,
Solo, Fool Killer, Slapstick, I ordered 0 copies,
and nobody said anything.
So at least with Captain Marvel, that's infinitely more than those copies. Yeah. 2 copies is a lot more. But yeah, so. If Marvel is smart, what they would do is they would bring back all their traditional characters. Now, we have this Marvel Generations. We actually got a few questions, and we'll talk about that in a second, about Generations. They'll bring back their base characters, but then they will focus and put quality and effort and care into these titles.
Please.
You have Miss Marvel. You have Miles Morales, right? Now, Moon Girl does not sell well in the direct market. However, they've worked with Scholastic and pushed Moon Girl in,
and that which is schools and
right.
And that's the thing is if she is a character that is in that market, give her to that market. Don't force her into this market, because the thing is she will naturally.
I like Moon Girl, actually.
She will
like that book.
She will naturally progress into this market as those kids that are exposed through Scholastic grow up. She will naturally progress into it.
There was a really good quote by G. Willow Wilson, the writer of Miss Marvel, and let me actually pull up her site here where I can read this here. Let me find it.
I think I read this article.
Let's see. See if I can find it here. Here we go. She says, the direct market and the book market have diverged. Never the twain shall meet. We need to accept this and move on and market accordingly.
Yeah.
And that's 100% true. And I've been saying this for years. Because it sells in Scholastic doesn't mean it's going to sell in the comic store. Because it sells in the comic store doesn't mean it's going to sell on Amazon. These markets are very different from each other. Neither is right or wrong.
Yep.
You can have Moon Girl, promote Moon Girl like crazy through Scholastic. I can't sell it, but that doesn't mean it shouldn't exist.
But the thing is those kids exposed in 15, 20 years
might come here. Right.
Being like, oh, I remember reading this Moon Girl as a kid, and that's the thing is that's the time for you to be like, oh, we've had this kind of Moon Girls. Let's bring her back into the actual.
This is so. If you go on G. Willow Wilson's site, the article is called "So About That Whole Thing." That's the article. That's her post here. Her final piece here is, on a practical level, this is not really a story about diversity at all. It's a story about the rise of young adult comics. If you look at it that way, the things that sell and don't sell, and the markets they sell in versus the markets they don't sell in, start to make a different kind of sense. Which is like. People like this is what I've been saying for years, and I'm finally glad to hear other people saying the same thing.
Well, the thing is we've always had for a long time difficulty selling to a certain age group.
Yeah, we have some comics that sell to kids. We do some of these. I restock our kids section constantly, but it's very hit or miss. It's very all over the place. They'll kind of just grab what's here. I don't sell Moon Girl. The people I sell Moon Girl to and Miss Marvel to and Captain Marvel and Miles Morales, they are all mostly straight, white, adult men. Mostly. Not entirely.
Customer base.
But mostly. That is my customer base. We have many Asian customers and black customers and female customers and gay customers, but a large portion of my audience is straight, white men. That is just the fact. We are in... Despite what someone on Reddit thinks, we are in a large city in the middle of the Silicon Valley, right? Sunnyvale is actually a big city.
Yes, you got your own Reddit thread too.
I mean, we're fucking. It's Sunnyvale. We are Cupertino.
We're in the this is
the most popularly dense area in the entire country outside of New York City.
Suburbia. Now we're just outside of metropolitan.
Between San Jose and San Francisco live the most people per capita. Like I think outside the boroughs in New York, it's ridiculous how populated this area is. But my audience is still straight white men. Not entirely, not exclusively, probably more than half. But that again. These are different audiences. We get kids
that come in. This is an audience that was reading this since they were like 7, 8 years old.
A lot of them,
right?
yeah.
I mean, that's kind of. I mean, most of us started that way.
Yep. And I think we'll see that the kids that started manga in the 2000s are now adults.
Yeah.
Right. These kids that are reading these comics now, 20 years from now, like Brock said, will probably a portion will come back in, right, and get the stuff. So.
But we've always had that difficulty. Well, not always, but in the past decade or so, there's been a really difficult age group to hit with, like the current wall or the what the mainstream books are a little bit higher on the kind of maturity level than the all ages. Like it's all ages or it's like kind of it's like it's going from G to PG-13. There's no PG in the middle.
Not many.
And the thing is I think what happened was with the diversity and the changing and bringing in these younger characters, like Toby, how like your who'd you take to the movies?
My friend's kids.
Your friend's kids. Like she's a teenager. She's a young kid, like early teen. This is an age range that's hard for us to hit.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna hold on. I'm gonna use your example here because I think it actually makes a lot of sense. You walk into a PG-13 movie, you're presented a G-rated film. You buy a ticket for a PG-13 rated movie, you expect one thing, they show a G-rated film. That is kind of Marvel and DC. Again, what the problem Marvel is having. If you're a comic book fan and you're a huge Marvel fan and you buy a ton of Marvel comics and you're expecting Daredevil, Punisher, Venom, Ghost Rider, and you get Squirrel Girl and Moon Girl,
Blindside.
You're going to be like, what the fuck is this, right? Yeah. Now, if you're a little kid and you're expecting Moon Girl and you pick up Punisher, that's a different story, right? But these markets are separate.
That will be the crossover of the
we had some kid in here. This kid couldn't have been more than 6 or 7 years old. He's like, my favorite character is Punisher. I want Punisher comics. And I'm like, well, here's the Max stuff. You probably don't want to give him that. Well, here's the stuff from the 90s. This is probably okay for him.
Mitchell's son loves Deadpool.
Yeah.
And a lot of kids
and his wife didn't know how bad Deadpool was.
Yeah.
Apparently they pulled off a really good Deadpool-themed kids party for
awesome.
like a young kid.
Look.
But yeah, there's definitely distinct differences.
Every single person sitting here was not 18 when we saw Alien and Predator and Terminator and saw R-rated movies. I mean, every kid loves the thing they're not supposed to read, right, or watch.
Deadpool is that formula.
Deadpool is 100%. See, for us, it's like a fucking Deadpool. But for dude, if I was 12 years old, Deadpool would be the coolest thing in the world. Because he's like the snarky asshole that doesn't care that shoots people, right? It's like, he's the best.
And you tell parents you're just buying a comic book.
Yeah, exactly. No. That's what the Rob Liefeld X-Force stuff was to so many kids. I feel like I just maybe missed it or didn't get it. Yeah. If I was maybe a year or two younger, I probably would have like hit me perfectly.
Yeah.
But
well, you'd also, I mean, around that time you would.
That's when I started.
That was the Sandman.
That's when I started shifting into Vertigo stuff. Yeah. But no, I mean,
Deadpool matured early.
Yeah, I did. Deadpool is that book for a lot of or that character for a lot of kids. So,
I think what it comes. I mean, moving the needle, right?
Yeah.
That's something that came up. Like they're moving the needle away from diversity, and it's like you've brought it up numerous times on this podcast and numerous times on your smaller rants on Twitter. Mm-hmm. Is that you have to have those core titles, and then you can experiment.
Yep.
Then you can bring in things like Squirrel Girl. You can bring in things like Raven. You can bring in things like that are smaller and in more digestible.
Well, Marvel's biggest problem right now is you get Squirrel Girl, it's a hit, and then you got 5 copycats. You got Hawkeye, which is a hit, then you got 5 copycats, right? It takes away from Hawkeye what made it special. It takes away from why Squirrel Girl was special to begin with, and then you got a bunch of, you diluted the whole fucking thing.
That was one of my other tweets. I said, Marvel does this all the time. They've been doing this for years. They get a success, and they replicate it 100 times. And it's like nothing is going to match. When DC Batgirled, the Batgirling of DC, it fucking flopped, right? Yeah. Everything that they did during DCU flopped. Some amazing books were published, but they all sold horribly.
Yeah.
Now, if Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman and Action and Justice League were normal, and then they launched those, they probably would have been succeeded a little bit better because people would have been reading them. Again, like I said, with Young Animal and the Flintstones comics and things like that. Flintstones is never going to outsell Batman, but I sold about 25 copies of the Flintstones Booster Gold annual at $5 a pop in 6 days. I can't sell 25 copies of any Marvel comic. That's my Amazing Spider-Man numbers right now. Fucking Amazing Spider-Man and the Flintstones Booster Gold annual sold the same number. That is shocking. Yeah. That is shocking to me.
Well, I mean, your Flintstone trade number 1 is looking to outsell Batman trade number 1.
Oh, it already has. I sold out in a week.
Yeah.
I thought I ordered enough of that for like 2 months. I sold out in let me rephrase that. I sold out in a day. Yeah. And we don't sell as many trades as some stores.
It's funny. When I'm at the bars and people, you're a comic book guy, which one you recommend? I go, Flintstones, get the fuck out.
Yeah. Every time.
Everyone's like, I've recommended it too.
And then I pull up that panel about marriage. I'm like, just read these two panels. And I go, holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always go, you'll be really surprised at where Yabba Dabba Doo comes from.
Yeah. So, I
want to put this in here. This podcast is so known as without Bryce here, as a Marvel hating podcast, and I want to remind people we're not Marvel. I mean, I texted you the other day because I'm like organizing my books at home. I got more Marvel trades and hardcovers than I have DC. I love Marvel. Your favorite characters are from Marvel. And people forget. I mean, we're mad just because we want it to do well. We're not mad because it's doing bad, we want it to do well. I mean, fuck, I'm really, really excited for this to come back.
Well, I mean, it also boils down to, as a retailer, you want Marvel to be healthy. You want Marvel and DC to be healthy.
Yeah.
Because
they never are at the same time, and it's infuriating.
And that's the thing is like, it's if they're both healthy, then like you said, those people that are coming to get the Marvel and the DC titles, they're going to walk down the aisle and maybe pick up the Image or the IDW or the Boom or the Dark Horse. Yep. They'll pick up.
They're
other
excited
stuff.
to be here.
They're excited to be here. But when they're like, oh, I got to come and get my Nova issues, but it's that stupid fucking Kid Nova, and it's like Kid Nova is a perfect example. Shove that fucker in Scholastic so we never have to see him again.
Well, look. Again,
it's not that. There's some kid that's going to like that character.
You can have that character be there, but
I mean, there's a Robin for everybody at this point.
Sure.
Mine is Nightwing, but there's a guy that likes Tim. There's a guy that likes Damian. I mean, This is all different eras.
I don't care if Miss Marvel exists, as long as the Captain Marvel comic is doing well and selling well, and currently it isn't. Now, I'm not saying anything bad about Miss Marvel, but I feel like you have to have these counters. You can have all the Kid Nova. That Kid Nova can have his book forever. I need a Guardians of the Galaxy comic where they're in space, for fuck's sake. How the fuck are the Guardians of the Galaxy not in space, for the love of God?
Well, it's the grounded story.
Have them in space fighting Thanos and Terrax with Warlock and the Infinity Gauntlet and all this garbage, right?
Make up something fucking new for us to see in the Marvel Space Universe.
No! I don't even want that. I don't care if one exists as long as their traditional counterpart is succeeding well. Because if the books succeed on look, if we were selling out 400 copies of Miss Marvel a month, I'd be like, oh, this is awesome, right? But I mean, odds are against these titles performing at a level they need to succeed. Now, some do in various formats. But again, you push Miss Marvel, you push Nova, you push Moon Girl, you push these in Scholastic and book fairs, you push it on Amazon. It's going to have a trouble in comic stores, but I don't care if they're there as long as everything else is there as well.
Yeah.
And that is the biggest.
Well, as long as the strength and of your core is there.
Yeah.
Right. You can spin off in reasonable amounts, because Marvel's notorious for, oh, well, X-Men, let's have 7-8 X-Men titles.
I want 7 X-Men titles, not the 4 that are out now. I want the 7 that seem like they're coming out, because I'm like, hey, look, these are characters I recognize. These are situations that look good.
But the thing is, if it's 7 characters you recognize, but if it's 7 or 4 of just like whatever, just pumping out because it's like, oh, the Avengers movie's coming out, let's have a fuck ton of Avengers books.
Yeah.
No, you don't want that. You want it to be healthy, because, I mean, Batwoman's doing very well comparatively, because she had her own thing in New 52. She was in Detective before that, so she's had a following. She's had a growth for 6 or 7 years or 8 years, because she came out of.
It was pre-New 52, yeah. So let's use Batgirl. Let's use Batwoman as the perfect way to launch a new character. Let me give you right. So let me kind of paraphrase what you're saying, but get to the modern day.
For 2 seconds, I thought you were going to insult me.
She's a gay woman, right? They introduced her in a backup strip. Well, she was introduced in the Bat Universe books, but she was
introduced in 52 or
she was prior to New 52. She was introduced in the Detective run.
No, she was introduced in the Countdown stuff.
No, her first appearance was in Detective. It was during the Rucker run of Detective. That's where she comes.
No, in. I know she had that run in there, but I think she came out of 52 because her
first appearance was in Detective Comics.
Okay, so
she's introduced in a traditional mainstream comic. She's introduced in Detective Comics, mainstream direct market comic. She's given backup story. She's brought in as part of a larger event during 52, where she gets expanded out and they do more with this character. She's tied to a popular character, therefore making it accessible and easy enough for people to maybe have be able to grasp this character because it is an interest in the Bat universe, right? There's this association. She's given a very high-profile launch by top-tier creators during a massive event. and nothing against the people doing Moon Girl or Miss Marvel or Nova or any of these books, but they are not creators that are going to sell books based on their names alone.
She replaced Batman and Detective for a while.
Right, but that's what I mean. She was in something that already existed.
It was a solid creative team that was put on. It was Williams and Rucka, right?
Yeah. So the book suffered some problems. They pulled the character back for a little while. When they brought back for Rebirth, they put her in Detective Comics. Again, a very strong creative team, a very strong title with a clear point. They let this book go for like 18 issues, and then they bring her out and they give her own series again. This is like the perfect way to do it. Now, if within 5 or 6 issues the Batwoman numbers plummet and they go back to what they were during New 52, then maybe they kind of need to rethink this, right?
Yeah.
But this is a great way to launch a new character. A character like Moon Girl that's just dropped in, that is very difficult.
Yeah.
DC does it quite a bit. If you remember Cassie Batgirl, No Man's Land. Is it No Man's Land? The Earthquake stuff?
Yeah.
Yep.
She gets into first it's Huntress, then, the mantle gets passed over. It's in a giant storyline before they spin her off into her own series.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
and when the story was told, then they kind of shelved the character. Fine with that.
Now, I think, the Mighty Thor is a good performing book. It's one of our top-selling Marvel titles, and it sells traditionally fairly well in the direct market compared to most every other title. However, I feel had they had her in the background of the traditional Thor comic for about a year, you build this character up, and then, boom, you launch her out into her own thing. I understand why some Thor fans are mad that suddenly they're just like, oh, this is not like what happened.
Well, because it spawned out of Original Sin. It was Original Sin, boom, done, we're moving forward. Like it's like these abrupt, very harsh jumping off points, if you want to look at them.
Definitely jumping off points.
That's what's I think hurt Marvel is that they've had so many of these in the past, 2-3 years.
Well, it's also Marvel that they were trying to just chase, taglines of, newspaper sites and shit like that.
The Tumblr crowd is up and it loves this, so let's pump out more of this.
So, to wrap this up real quick, and I mean, there's a conversation that'll never end, but David Gabriel did come back. He did clarify his comments and said that, let me rephrase this, let me read the full quote here. Discussed candidly by some of the retailers at the summit, we heard that some are not happy with the false abandonment of the core Marvel heroes, which I don't believe is false. I believe it's 100% true. And contrary to what some said about characters not working, the sticking factor and popularity for a majority of these new titles and characters, like Squirrel Girl, Miss Marvel, Mighty Thor, Spider-Gwen, Miles Morales, and Moon Girl, continue to prove that our fans and retailers are excited about these new heroes. And let me be clear, our new heroes are not going anywhere. We are proud and excited to keep introducing new unique characters that reflect new voices and new experiences into the Marvel Universe and pair them with our iconic heroes. So, the characters he listed, I feel, with one exception, are characters that they should continue to publish. Squirrel Girl, Miss Marvel, Mighty Thor, Miles Morales, Moon Girl, while I feel like they probably can give up the single issue comic, they should push Moon Girl as a
Scholastic like, digest book,
right? Like, something like that.
Yeah.
Spider-Gwen.
Spider-Gwen's time is over.
Spider-Gwen was a variant cover that was a joke that somehow became a thing. Spider-Gwen is
which then spawned Gwenpool.
Spider-Gwen and Gwenpool are the two examples when I've talked to Marvel where I said, these are characters that are the reason these are the characters that my customers use to make fun of Marvel with. These are not characters that are helping anything, that are expanding the market, that are fixing stuff, that are reaching a new audience. These characters are poor characters. There's no reason for these characters to exist. They are taking up a publishing spot of a vast number of superior characters. Now, again, I'm not saying that with any of the other characters. I think they all have their place. Those two, Spider-Gwen and Gwenpool, need to go away. They are harming the Marvel brand in the long run. They are harming the Spider-Man brand and the Deadpool brand. They are the rare, characters like Solo and Slapstick and what was the Indian, the Native American character that they
Red Wolf.
Red Wolf. These characters, like, they can just come and go, whatever. They're real, quote unquote, real characters. They are characters that have existed prior. They're not supposed to have ongoing titles, right? Spider-Gwen and Gwenpool need to fucking go away. I'm sorry. They need to go away. So, everything else, I agree, and I hope that Marvel is sticking with this. And they, obviously, they've been taking it in the sales charts, and now they're taking it even harder online. So,
because we should be getting the March sales chart soon, right?
Very soon.
Because those February ones were...
Well, February was rough. March is going to be real bad. So the internet hasn't banned me because I'm Team Pineapple on pizza. But let's go through some of these Twitter questions because we got a bunch. Of course, Eric says I might put pineapple and pepperoni together on pizza, and that's totally fine. Everything's great on pizza. It's pizza.
I'd take my pineapple. Just give me pineapple. Don't cook it. Just cut it and give it to me.
So Bobby says, what are the repercussions if Generations are one-shots versus ongoings? Now, let me explain this a little bit. We talked about this last week. There's going to be a series of one-shots for Generations. I think a lot of people assume these were going to be something else. I actually did initially as well. Generations are all one-shots. We don't know exactly what they're going to be. Bleeding Cool did post an article today where they said they are going to be although despite saying this is not what it was, this is what Marvel said, according to Rich Johnson of Bleeding Cool, these are going to be the modern character taken through time or reality or whatever and meeting up with with the original version and having a little one-shot adventure with this character. Now, that sounds cool. That does not sound like a complete relaunch of the Marvel Universe where everything is going to go back to normal. My hope here is that each of those books, if this is true, each of those books are the seed for the return of the classic version.
Yeah.
They don't have to have
Alice Rebirth.
Right. I would like them to happen in that issue and just be like, fuck, it's done, it's here, Wolverine's back, let's go, right? I understand that might not work. I would like it. And then they launch a Wolverine book the next week, right? But if this is the seed, if this is sort of here's our tone, here's our idea, here's our pitch, boom, now we have Jane Foster and Thor. Boom, now we have Wolverine X and X-23. As long as it happens within a few months, I think that's okay. Marvel said no number ones, no big relaunches, none of this stuff. I mean, there will be number ones and relaunches because they have to bring some of these books back.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Or unless they're just dropping it in at Wolverine 307.
I mean, it's still a number one. It's just right. I mean, but yes, legacy numbering. Yeah. We don't know anything about legacy numbering. That would seem likely, but there's no confirmation. Nobody knows for sure. So the repercussions are hopefully they sell really well, and hopefully people like them and don't expect more. But yeah. Let's see. Problematic Cartoon asks, heard anything interesting about Marvel recently? I don't think so. Let's see.
Repeat this podcast.
Yeah. Brandon asks, will Wally West get another code name to differentiate him from Barry? Currently, they're both called the Flash.
Which Wally West? Which Wally West?
Flash in Titans, Wally West.
Okay.
Because they're both called Flash. No, I don't care.
No, it doesn't matter. I think it's... I mean, unless they're standing still... I mean, they just look like red blurs anyway, red yellow blurs anyway. So
one doesn't have the head, one doesn't have one has the hair sticking out, the other doesn't. Yeah. The other doesn't. So yeah, whatever. I mean, I'm fine with it. I mean,
if it's yellow, it's the kid version.
I don't know. Well, he's red.
If it's yellow and yellow,
Kid Flash,
it's Kid Flash.
No, he's asking about Barry and Wally.
No, I know, but I'm saying the distinction. Yeah. You said the hair, and I'm like, but his hair technically sticks out of his costume.
That's the same name.
Yeah, I don't care. Because if they come up with a new name, it'll probably be stupid.
Yep. It will not last.
Grumble Bumble asks, do you think it's okay for comic journalists to take a thread of tweets publicly available and call it a story? Ashley got asked this question quite a bit.
Well, that's like a new age of journalism.
It's 100% appropriate and totally within Twitter's terms of service. And
I mean, Rich Johnson gives you credit.
Yeah, he does.
I mean, there's no... I mean,
it's like that every...
I think Donald Trump has normalized this.
Yeah.
Tweets are news. So...
Yeah, but informative news is what are the good ones.
Yeah, I wish there was a way to make that read a little easier because it doesn't read great, but whatever.
I've seen it done different ways. I think it's just something like how you have to click on it or something. It's
weird. It's weird. Mitchell
asks, Mitch.
Well, he misspells your in a previous thing, so you can yell at him for that. He says, what would you like to see in a new Batgirl movie? Send this over to Toby.
Well, there's no denying I want to see the Killing Joke storyline without Batgirl fucking Batman. And I want her to end up in a wheelchair and take over as Oracle.
This is a sad movie.
Well, it's no secret I'm a fan of the Dixon stuff.
We know.
Yeah.
Before we traumatize everybody and go down this very dark path, what would you like to see Batgirl do in the Batgirl movie?
Said it. I want her to overcome more than
that's the sequel. Like what would you to establish this character? I mean, what would you give the audience? Like what villain? What like who should go up against? Like would Nightwing be in it? And they have that.
I would actually go with I mean, that's what Batgirl is. She starts up on her own. She's kind of a wild card, and then gets found out by Batman, and then gets trained. I mean, that's actually the storyline I would go with. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I don't see. I mean, I don't think they're just going to drop her in, and she's already been there for 5 years or something.
No, that's not the way to do it.
I have two questions.
Do that and then put her in the goddamn wheelchair.
Yeah. I have two questions that kind of tie into each other, so let's guess both at the same time.
Are they from the same person?
No, two different people.
Oh, wow.
Zach asks, apparently Mark Waid disabled his Twitter right after he unblocked me, too. So disappointed. Mark Waid disabled...
He knew he was going to unblock you.
Mark Waid disabled his Twitter because he threatened violence against Jude Terror.
Is that a person?
It's a person on Bleeding Cool. It's one of their journalists, I guess, if you want to say that.
That word. Yeah. The word, was just... You don't want to use that word at all.
I'll get into it. And Bennett asks, do you think being outspoken on social media is worth it at the risk of endangering yourself or your job? It seems to happen often. I feel like those are pretty
as Ryan says, this is a perfect Ryan Higgins question.
I fully expect to be sitting here at the store one day and just someone shooting me in the back of the head. Just kick open the door and just be like, it's you from the internet.
So wait, you put the cameras in not to protect from... theft, you just put it in there just to record your death.
Yeah, okay. I figure it's going to happen. But no, Mark Waid is very outspoken on the internet, and
he is.
He is. So Jude Terror is a fucking idiot, and he's a journalist. Sorry for ruining
Ryan
that word.
Is air quoting every time he's doing that, and not in the good air quote way.
He is one of these assholes that work for Bleeding Cool and writes the worst. Just the worst clickbait.
I mean, it's all clickbait.
Absolute lowest garbage tier articles.
It's like cockroach.
It's the worst.
So Mark Waid called out on it.
And Mark Waid wondered how. I don't remember if it was Alex Alonso or Steve Wacker or who it was, but I think it was maybe Steve Wacker who works at who worked at Marvel but now works at Marvel. I think he works on the cartoons. How he doesn't punch Jude Terror in the face every day, and people are like, "Oh, Mark Waid, you're threatening violence against." And Rich Johnson came on, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you should punch him twice or something like that." I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but Rich and Jude hate each other. I mean, Rich runs the site. The Beat called for Rich Johnson to be fired from Bleeding Cool because of comments of violence towards basically an employee or a coworker.
I threaten violence to you all the time.
Fuck, dude. Look.
How many times a week do I say I'm going to stab you?
We cannot allow Jude Terror to be the guy that's like the sympathetic hero of this situation. He is an absolute garbage-dwelling basement troll.
Yeah.
He is the worst. He is not someone to feel sorry for. He is not sympathetic. He is a troll asshole. Now, look, I'm not gonna generally go out and punch someone in the face. I'm not gonna recommend you punch people in the face. More power to you, especially if they're a Nazi. But dude, fuck that guy, right? Mark Waid should not be fired. Rich Johnson shouldn't be fired. You know, there is intent. There is like, I'm going to kill you, and then I'm going to fucking kill you, right? I mean,
how many times on this podcast have we said stuff like that?
Constantly, right?
I've had box cutters open and pointed at you going, I will cut you, Higgins.
Right.
But am I actually going to do it?
No. Maybe one day.
Maybe one day.
But
with that, we're going to be old, and by the time I catch you, we probably both die of heart attacks.
Mark Waid can be an insufferable asshole a lot of the times, but Jude Terror is the fucking worst. So please, don't get mad at Mark Waid.
Well, what's funny is like I've read some articles on Bleeding Cool, and I'm like, okay, and then I get to the bottom, it's like, and like I'm like reading through it, and it says, oh, by Jude Terror, and the entire article,
it's the worst.
It's like you were like, something is wrong with this, and then you go, oh, Jude Terror, you're done.
I never used RSS feeds until Jude Terror started writing for Bleeding Cool, because I will never purposefully click a link or an article that he writes. So I've now, actually, I love RSS feeds now that I use it. I use Feedly because it tells me the writer of the article. Some of them don't, and most do, but a lot of them don't. Feedly seems to work really well. I will never click on an article this guy does. He is such an asshole. I will never give this guy the time of day. I don't say this about a lot of people. Let's see. We got one from Ray. He's got a long one here, but well, it's multiple tweets. I'll read it.
I'm wondering if we're going to be demanded to be taken off of iTunes now.
He says, do you think Marvel can really turn things around? They waste no time in blaming everyone but themselves for their bad sales.
Absolutely.
DC went out and apologized to their fans, and Rebirth was an apology from Geoff Johns to the fans. I don't see Marvel eating any humble pie. Marvel seems to have not truly internalized that they made mistakes, while DC obviously did. That's a really tough question. Can they turn it around? Yeah. Do I think they've learned their lesson? Do I think they really mean it? I don't know.
Yeah,
it's tough.
It's because it's you've been burned already. It's like,
well, I could tell you from my perspective. I have had more conversation with Marvel in the last 5 weeks than I have had in 20 years at the store. I have had Marvel send me stuff, contact me, reach out to me. I mean, it was zero prior to the last few weeks.
Yeah.
Now, are they doing this and the second sales are better? We all get cut off? Possibly, right? That's kind of going to be the tell.
Yeah.
My hope is no. My hope is Marvel. This is their way of eating humble pie, right? It's very possible. Now, blaming retailers for not selling diverse titles, blaming fans for needing to support their stuff, blaming DC.
You know, the whole diverse thing too. If you got a middle-aged white guy writing a teenage black girl, it's a little weird. I mean, you know, maybe some things are not connecting because of that, right? I'm not blaming Bendis or anything because he's a great writer, you know, and he could probably pull it off. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying, like, you know, there are reasons why some of these titles are not jumping off either, right? Well, and more on top of, like, you know, them not jump-starting in the right way to begin with. But there's so many issues with this, and it is time for them to eat the humble pie, though.
Yeah,
it is. It has been like 5 years too late at this point.
Well, Marvel did grab a lot of new creators, a lot of untested talent, a lot of people that maybe didn't click with the traditional Marvel way.
Yeah.
You know, it's tough.
And it's a new age, too. I mean,
people want female comic writers, people want black comic writers, gay comic writers. If 95% of the submissions you're getting are from white guys,
you got to take the best out of the best.
It's tough, right? I mean, I understand. DC has a number, but it's still, they're kind of normal people are doing the big titles, right? Yeah. But, I mean, they are building an audience. They have their
writer's workshop.
Yeah, the workshop and the artist workshop that Jim Lee does. Yeah. So they have new talent that they're working on. And given a book like Batwoman, Marguerite Bennett's co-writing it, they obviously have...
like her stuff, I mean, her stuff has improved over time. I mean... because she does Bombshells.
Yeah, and you like that, right?
Bombshells is okay.
Her Marvel stuff, to me, I didn't care for.
Her Animosity.
Yeah, you like
I really enjoyed Animosity. Yeah. But I think she's gotten a lot better under kind of that editorial mentoring, working with, like, you know, Tyrion the Fourth.
Now, one thing I don't know if people realize about DC, at least on the art end, a huge, I don't want to say a huge portion, a large number of people that work on the art end at DC. There's a lot of Spanish and South American artists that they hire, a lot of them. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're not white guys from America. it's a form of diversity, I suppose. I don't know if people want specific races or specific areas to be represented more than others, but they do have a fairly diverse pool of people working at DC these days. And I think Marvel does too. A lot of the artists, they go to the European conventions, they go to the Japanese conventions, especially the South American conventions, Brazil. They're huge. They
produce a lot of artists,
and they get a ton of artists from down there.
They really do. So I don't know what it is. Something in the water.
Yeah, they're amazing artists. Yeah, so they're bringing a lot of these people up. All right, end of the episode. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and especially if this is your first episode, I hope you enjoyed it. And let us know what you like or don't like. And if you go back to listen to some old ones, we just had our 300th episode anniversary. We talked about the Logan movie. Had a good friend, Julian Titus, on. So I almost said Albert. He's the first one on my list here. I'm looking down the list. So at the end of the episode, we'd like to thank all our high-tier Patreon backers. We should have had our Patreon stuff clear. It is not. I don't know if it's because of the weekend or whatever. So next episode, we'll have all the new Patreon stuff on. So we're still technically getting off the March list. I apologize if anyone's on there that shouldn't be or should be on here that isn't. Patreon's been very slow to process. We're not sure what's going on, but we will update that as we go. So thank you to all our top-tier backers. That's Albert Soy. Julian Titus has the Nerds Without Pants podcast at pixelbit.com. Ryan, there it is. Ryan Hess has the Preach podcast at soundcloud.com/Preach podcast.
I think they're up to episode 43.
Yeah, that sounds right. Jody Lawson has the Triad Comics Anthology at triadcomicsstudios.com. Make sure you go check out all those podcasts and comics, as well as our good friends Manoa Place, Sam Che, Talon Bray, and Craig Anderson. Thank you guys all very, very much for your donations to us through Patreon. Again, patreon.com/Comic Conspiracy. You can go and donate as little as $1 a month to help this podcast keep going. Pays for our hosting fees, pays for some equipment when we need it, all that jazz.
You also get access to some cool...
Yeah, high-tier backers. High-tier backers. We have a Q&A thing, although most of them just go off Twitter. High-tier backers get some free comics every month, so we send those out, although I've been very slacking at
anybody who donates through Patreon gets access to the Bryce Brieflies and...
So we have
Toby and Charlie's roundups.
Yeah, whenever those come out. So we have various other content. And actually, we've been slacking. I got to get some other stuff on the Patreon feed. Maybe I'll try to do a special this week or something and try to put something else up. Comic Conspiracy Podcast.com. That is where you can find this episode and all our previous episodes, as well as geekbox.net and iTunes. Check them out, please. Please rate and review us. We always appreciate that. I have
something more to say.
Oh, my God. Okay.
We went somewhere.
We?
Yeah.
Who's we?
Me and you, fucker, and your wife.
Oh, yeah.
To one of the nerdiest concerts ever.
It's not comic books, but sure.
Yeah,
why are you talking about this in the outro?
It's because you fucking didn't talk about it during the podcast. Oh,
that's like Geekbox talk, man.
Well, I don't fucking care. I'm not on the fucking Geekbox.
Okay, talk about it.
I have a bone to pick with nerds, geeks, whatever the fuck you guys want to call yourselves. I get made fun of, like in some sports, quite a bit of some nerds and geeks and, whatever you want to call yourselves, and how you guys don't fully understand how you could root for a team, how it's so fucking boring, and it doesn't make any sense to go to this venue to cheer for your team.
Maybe we should start Toby rants.
I go to this fucking concert. Getting is a different situation. We'll talk about this later. But we watch this concert, and fucking Ramsey Bolton comes on the fucking screen. The whole fucking nerd arena goes, boo! Right? I'm like, how the fuck is this different from hating another team? And then fucking Jon Snow comes and they go, yay! I'm like, it's the same fucking shit. They play hockey in the same fucking arena, and you're cheering and booing people you like and people you hate. It's the same shit.
You're noticing his face is turning red, right?
So a little context here. Myself, my wife, Leanne, and Toby, we went to the Game of Thrones tour, the concert tour that they did.
It was fucking amazing.
In San Jose, at the SAP, at the SAP Center. Yeah, SAP Center in San Jose. It was a performance of many of the songs from Game of Thrones with a live orchestra. The orchestra was actually from Lucas
Skywalker?
Yeah, it was Skywalker Sound. It was there, so they used local people, and the people they used were the people to do the fucking music for Star Wars, so that's awesome. As well as a A guy that plays like all these crazy instruments. He had a didgeridoo and all these ridiculous stuff.
Yeah, there was a violinist soloist,
crazy
and there's a cello.
celloist.
Yeah,
some ridiculous music.
The fucking cello must have been feeling like a rock star.
Yeah,
man.
I know. They had like this huge screens that would just show clips from that. They would do kind of character based ones, and then
fucking choir.
Yeah, a big choir.
And I think it was a combination of Skywalker and another orchestra.
Yeah, it was. There was another local orchestra.
Yeah.
But it was pretty cool.
It was fucking amazing.
Despite SAP Center's horrible line.
Did we find out why? Because we both got there separately, and there was like the entire stadium of people were outside.
We're talking 15 minutes before the show is supposed to start.
And there's like lines you wouldn't, like Comic-Con lines.
No one has been let in.
Yeah, and by the time we got in, there's all these empty seats. Nobody's in the fucking stadium. I don't know what the fuck happened.
I was like, well, I've had to piss for like an hour and a half. By the time I got out, the entire first song was done. I mean, we walked in and the music was already on. Like, there must have been 3/4 empty when they started.
Yeah.
So I don't know what happened, but man, did they completely screw up.
For a ticket that was kind of expensive, they really fucked it in.
Yeah. But
it was an amazing.
That aside, it was really cool.
It was very, very cool.
Yeah.
But damn you nerds, you fucking totally understand sports. You just don't want to fucking admit it.
Our sports teams are Marvel and DC. Our sports teams are Ramsey Bolton and Jon Snow.
It was fun. I would start laughing when the Ramsey Bolton came in. I was like, boo! I was like, this is the same shit. This is when LeBron comes here to Oracle and does some stupid shit. You go, boo! It's the same shit.
That's great. It's cool though. It was really fun.
It was very cool. Yep. It was very cool. I very much enjoyed it.
Yep. All right, where was I?
You're middle in the outro.
Yeah, the Comic Conspiracy Podcast. I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah. The Comic Conspiracy at geekbox.net or the contact form at geekbox.net. So you can send us some email, long form. Send us a question on there if you want. Digital.comicsconspiracy.biz. That is where you can find our digital storefront, where you can pick up all sorts of great comics on sale. Subscribe. Now, people always ask me, I always talk about this, but in case you don't know, any comic you buy on there actually supports the store. We get money every time you buy through our digital website. It's Comixology. It's the same Comixology that you know and use.
Even when you subscribe to something,
if you have never subscribed to that title and you subscribe to it through our website, you never have to go back to that website again. You will get that title for as long as it's published automatically every month, and we get that cut. So remember to do that. ConspiratorBrock.com, that's Brock's blog and video pull list.
Yeah,
Wanderers.
I got a new statue, the DC
unboxing video.
Yeah, unboxing video, the DC Comics Flash Jesse Quick bombshells up. So.
All the babies like unboxing videos.
Oh, suck it.
Wanderers in the Fourth Dimension podcast. That's Charlie's podcast about Doctor Who, which apparently all the original Doctor Who is now streaming, which is awesome. Etsy.com/shop/Leanne Hill Art. That is Leanne, my wife. That is her Etsy store.
Is she working on anything new?
Something for later this year. A lot of somethings for later this year.
Okay.
I'm on Twitter, Ryan Higgins Ryan, that's me. Brock is Brock Sager. Larson Bryce, that's Bryce Larson. He should be back next week. Toby is Toby XI. Charlie's Insanity and Chaos. The store is Comics Con Store. Please check out the Geekbox Comedy Button, Good Job Brain, All Talk Podcast, and Manga Machinations. And I should have really mentioned this earlier in the episode, but this weekend is our annual April sale at Comics Conspiracy. It is Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all 3 days. Big discounts. We're doing 50% off on back issues. We're doing 25% off.
That includes wall books.
That includes wall books. 25% off comic books, graphic novels. Lots of good deals.
Used
trades. Used trade paperbacks. Tons of 50-cent comics outside.
Are the sets half off? Or
half off sets.
Okay.
Yep. Lots of great stuff.
We forgot something else.
What else did you forget?
Happy birthday, Ryan.
Oh, thank you, Joe.
Absolutely.
Brock said that earlier in the podcast. No, but you weren't here.
You weren't here. It's yours.
That's all right. Thank you, though. I'll still appreciate it.
Fuck you now.
Oh, okay.
Just call him an old man. It'll really piss him off.
All right, that's it. We're really going to wrap up now.